Genocide, the deliberate and systematic destruction of a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, is one of humanity's most horrific crimes. South Africa has brought this grave accusation against Israel in the International Criminal Court. Today, we will expose this baseless and outrageous claim, along with a web of lies that paved the way for it. Shalom and welcome to In Our Neighborhood. And behind me is the Supreme Court of Israel. Here in Jerusalem, it stands as a pillar of justice and democracy, embodying the nation's commitment to upholding the rule of law, human rights, and equality for all its citizens, regardless of background or belief. The UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on December 9th, 1948, in response to the atrocities of the Holocaust. It defines genocide under international law, criminalizes acts of genocide, and obligates member states to prevent and punish such acts wherever they occur. This was the first human rights treaty adopted by the UN, marking a pivotal step in the development of international humanitarian law. In line with its values, and since the beginning of the war against Hamas in Gaza, the IDF has set a global standard in urban warfare, demonstrating unprecedented effort to minimize civilian casualties, even under the most challenging conditions in Gaza. Unlike any army in history, the IDF employs advanced precision technology, issues warnings before strikes, and evacuates civilians from danger zones, often at great operational risk to its own soldiers. Far from intending genocide, the IDF's actions reflect a commitment to protecting human life while combating a terrorist organization that deliberately embeds itself among civilians. The claim of genocide is not only baseless, but ignores the reality of an army striving to balance the necessity of self-defense with the ethical response to safeguard innocent lives. Hamas, along with other Iranian-backed proxies, openly calls for the destruction of Israel, making no secret of their genocidal intent. Their charters, their speeches, and actions consistently advocate for the eradication of the Jewish state, targeting civilians with terrorism and violence to achieve their goal. This is a clear and undeniable claim to genocide, rooted in hatred and extremist ideology. Moreover, in recent years, conflicts around the world have caused staggering death tolls. In China alone, over 1 million Uyghurs have been detained in camps. In Afghanistan, decades of war have led to over 200,000 deaths. The Syrian civil war has claimed more than 500,000 lives, while in Yemen, over 230,000 people have died from violence, starvation, and lack of medical care. The conflict in Ethiopia is estimated to have resulted in 600,000 deaths since 2020. Yet the world remains largely silent on these atrocities. And Israel, a country that has gone to extraordinary lengths to minimize civilian casualties, finds itself falsely accused of genocide. Back to South Africa. How did they become the ones taking Israel to court? Well, even that trails back to a strategy riddled with lies and suspicious motives. Keep watching us as we uncover the truth behind this accusation. But before we dive deeper, make sure to like this video and subscribe to TBN Israel's YouTube channel. Your support helps us get the truth out to the entire world. Our TBN team in South Africa is meeting Vivian Myberth, the director of ICJ South Africa, along with a few of the special Christians who are being honored for being a true friend to Israel during this challenging time.
To fully understand the South African history and narrative with the Palestinian cause, if you want to call it that, one has to go back a little bit in history. And the ANC, or African National Congress, who came into power in 1994 as the ruling party with Nelson Mandela, of course, we all know, as the first president of South Africa, they were established in 1912 as an organization against apartheid. That was the rule of law in South Africa at that time. They then became affiliated with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, and in 1969, Yasser Arafat took over that organization. And immediately he had very close ties with Russia. In fact, many people say, or it is believed, that he was a KGB operative as well. And Russia got very involved in those years in the 60s to fund and to support liberation organizations all over the world. And this is where the ANC and the PLO connected. And a lot of this started as well in 2001 at the Durban United Nations Racism Conference, which was totally hijacked by a group of non-profit organizations or NGOs, very much by the Muslim lobby within that, to forge the new definition that they're trying to bring out there, that Zionism is racism. It wasn't actually accepted across the board, but that stuck. And that really was the beginning, in many ways, of the impetus for the BDS movement, for the apartheid narrative, which has been used over and over around the world to demonize Israel. It was almost like a natural flow that when the ANC, before our recent elections, were actually bankrupt, they actually owed a lot of money and they didn't have a means to pay for their bills. Very conveniently, after launching the ICJ case, suddenly their bills were paid. And this has been uncovered and investigated that Iran funded this court case and that the ANC government particularly were just a useful mechanism for them to wage lawfare against Israel and to take them to court.
Strategically, South Africa's history of overcoming apartheid gives it a unique moral authority and a global clout to accuse Israel of similar practices. But as time passes, it is becoming evident that South Africa's accusations may be less than justice and more about political maneuvering, with indications that this stance aligns with alliances and financial incentives from countries and organizations that strongly oppose Israel. This payoff reflects strategic interest rather than a moral or historical parallel, raising questions about the true motivations behind the accusations. Before we dive deeper, make sure to like this video and subscribe to TBN Israel's YouTube channel. Your support helps us get the truth out to the entire world. I'm meeting Adam Kepkey, a South African who under the apartheid regime was classified as colored. During apartheid, South Africans were divided into rigid racial categories: whites, blacks, and colored, with colored individuals treated as second-rate citizens and subjected to harsh discrimination. Adam is visiting Israel for the 12th time, a testament to his deep love and unwavering commitment to the country and its people. Despite the accusations his government has made against the State of Israel, Adam, as a representative of the South African people, is dedicated to dispelling these claims and sharing the truth about Israel's reality.
When you do advocacy, you've got to be consistent. You've got to keep that light burning. And that's why we stand at Parliament every Friday. We don't go away. Consistency is what does it.
Paint me a picture.
Yes.
You're growing up in South Africa, and when you hear the word apartheid, which is now used, I believe, very loosely and liberally today, what does that look like on a day-to-day basis for you when you're growing up?
I've been a victim of apartheid. In 6 years' time, I will be 60 years. So I was born in 1970. I've experienced it. I live in the area, Elsies River, which is one of the roughest areas. You know, we've experienced the police brutality against the schools and against the youngsters. Day-to-day basis, we can't go to certain amenities. We can't go to certain areas. On the buses, we can't sit in certain places. We are separated. We are second-class citizens. And it's clear that you're almost dehumanized. So
when you hear the words that are nowadays, they're used liberally, oftentimes about Israel. Israel is an apartheid state. The Israeli government applies apartheid, let's call it government plans and policies. And you as a South African who's grown up under that, what do you think about those accusations about what's happening here?
Yeah, I've come to Israel 12 times. I've been involved with Israel. I'm here now for 50 days, and I've experienced the country. I've gone from north to south. I'm on the trains, I'm on the buses, which you don't often get in a tour experience. Yeah. And I've not seen any of that. I've not seen. Also, what's very important for apartheid, one of the requirements is that it has to be legal, it has to be on the books. There's to be laws against certain groups. You can't go here, you can't use this amenities and all of that. You can't marry this person. So this is not applying to Israel. There's no laws, no apartheid laws that is on the legal books of Israel. I've been to East Jerusalem. I've seen how people mix because Israel has 2 million Arabs that are citizens. And I think there is no apartheid that I have seen mingling and moving amongst the people.
You hear apartheid, you've lived through this. Your body bears the scars and, and the pain, the fear of living in that government. And I think you respond a lot stronger to that because you've really seen what it means.
Yes, that is why I breathe to just do hasbara.
You said hasbara. Hasbara, we translate it to, let's call it public advocacy. But that's not what the word means. The word means in Hebrew to explain. And the thought behind that, and that's why I'm delaying on this, is that if we explain what really happens here to people over there, they'll understand and they will change their mind. And I don't think that's true. We look at this war, the false accusations against Israel have gone and grown during this war. Accusations of apartheid, of intentional murdering of children, women, intentional genocide and starving. And these accusations are made while Israel is endangering the lives of Israeli soldiers to feed the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. We're being told that we're starving them on purpose. The South African government, for the last 30 years at this point, and maybe 25 years, since Durban, let's call it, have been actively been engaged in spreading lies about the Jewish people, in anti-Semitic libels, and even in doing the bidding of anti-democratic and anti-freedom governments such as the Iranians in international courts, in international forums, all to hurt the Jewish people. And it seems counterintuitive to me. Like, why? How do you get to that? How do you make that psychological leap between I'm here and I want to reconcile, I want to fix the evil that existed in my country, and end up anti-Zionist, anti-Semite, and pro-Iranian? How does that happen?
I know in May they had an election, we had an election, and they ran out of money and went to Iran, took South Africa, Israel to court and got money. They're also part of an international community. They're part of BRICS, as you know, key. They play the key role in Africa. So China and Russia and all these people that are working and helping the Arab nations, it's about the dark side. They also feel, almost because they've poured so much money into Africa and investments, that they almost obliged to take that side. And in the BRICS situation, not only do you have Russia, India, China, and Brazil, but now you have 5 or 6 Arab countries that have also joined, and more being because they want to introduce probably a different currency or whatever, but also to challenge the Western system of belief, which is the Torah, the Bible, Christianity, Judaism, and create another system.
Adam, I want to thank you for being a speaker of truth. It's so meaningful because we've been abandoned by the world community who are choosing to see deceit versus truth. And there are people like you that say, we don't care what other people are saying. We see God's truth, we see the truth in the situation, and we want to tell you that we love you and we're praying and we see what God is doing in this land, and it matters.
If you're a Christian and you believe the Bible, you have to be a supporter of Israel in word, in deed, in prayer, in action. It's the story of Israel. The Bible is the story of Israel from the beginning to the very end. And it's also very clear that God's heart is for this nation and for these people. I've been to Israel many times. I was actually in Israel when the 7th of October happened. I was with a tour group in Israel at the time. We were at the Dead Sea. It's totally surreal. We didn't understand it yet. But I can say that it changed my life that day. You realized you needed to speak out. People needed to know what had happened and the facts on the ground, because they were going to be twisted, which happened. The ICJ was very well positioned to help immediately after the 7th of October attacks, because we've been working so closely with the communities in the Gaza envelope in the South particularly. We have to date funded close to or over 250 bomb shelters. Many of them had been placed in the South, and many of them were also being placed in the North for obvious reasons as we saw the war developing there. Wherever there's a need, we kind of jump in and are there to do what we need to do.
Since October 7th, 2023, war has devastated Israel with relentless missile attacks that have destroyed communities.
Over 57,000 acres of forests have been reduced to ash. We're calling on you. At TBN Israel, we're starting a campaign to replant these forests. We want you to be part of rebuilding the land of Israel. Click on the link below to plant a tree and help us restore hope to our land.
I'm Chris Eden, National Director of Bridges for Peace in South Africa. When the 7th of October happened, our team was kicking into action in Israel, but also as a South African office, we've also felt the need to put a bit more of a South African stamp on the projects in Israel, because we're in a country where the government has become progressively hostile to Israel, whereas there's a major support within the Christian community in South Africa for Israel. We were able to sponsor 2 rapid response vehicles. One went into Kiryat Shmona, which is like the battlefield still, the other one's in Modi'in. And importantly, on the doors of these vehicles, it says, "From Christians in South Africa who love and support Israel." So we've now taken that concept. We've got a bomb shelter on its way now, and we're trying to find ways in which we can message in Israel in a far more sort of pertinent way to address the perception in many people's minds, including many of our Jewish friends, that South Africa is a hostile country towards Israel. And that's not the case, yeah.
My name is Elizabeth Robertson Campbell. I became the first Christian chairlady of an all-Jewish women's international organization called WITSO. After the 7th of October, many of us were gutted, as many, around the world, about what had happened in Israel. And I was just so frustrated because we didn't know how we could show Israel, the Jewish people, our love and care in a sort of a practical way, doable way. And the one day while doing housework, it just dawned on me, write love letters. I had the privilege to go with 4 friends, and we handed them out in the highways, in the buses, in the streets. And the response was beyond your imagination. There was zero resistance. The Israelis are so on the mat when it comes to feeling so isolated, so hated, so rejected. And when we came there from South Africa, I mean, they looked at the envelope and they said, "You're from South Africa?" And then we'd say, "Yes, but we think you don't love us, your government." And we said, "That's the point. That's why we're here. And this is our way of showing how much we love you." And they used to just be in tears half the time and then ask if I had one for their mother, or they've got sons in the army. And even though there's so much trauma in Israel and so much devastation and sadness, there's a sweetness I found with the Israelis. Everybody seemed to be pulling together, and I think that's what this war has done. The upside of the war has united Israel in a way that they never knew before. You know, when God, right from Genesis, right through to Revelation, it's a love story to God's people, the Jews. Without them, Jesus can't come back. I don't know where what you think, but he's not coming to Cape Town or to New York or, St. Petersburg. He's coming back to Jerusalem, and they are the custodians of his land, and they go together.
How can we say that we love the God of Israel and not love the people of Israel? Our very salvation, our scriptures, everything that means anything to us spiritually comes through the Jewish nation. So you cannot say that you love God, that you're waiting for Jesus to return, and ignore the nation of Israel. It is key and central to his very return.
Most Christians who go to Israel, when they get to Israel, it feels like we just came home. It's a very surprising feeling for most people. But if you really think about Christianity, it has its roots in Judaism. Israel is where the biblical narrative played out. It's where prophetic promises will play out. So for me, any Christian who's reading his Bible and has a mildly practical approach to it, Israel must be important to them.
In a world where the truth so often feels exiled amidst a clamor of noise and accusations, voices like Adam Kepkey's Vivian Mybirth, along with a few of the special Christians, shine as beacons of clarity and integrity. Israel is not an apartheid state, but a beacon of democracy, diversity, and resilience. The truth may be obscured, but it can never be extinguished. And it is our duty to seek it, to defend it, and to share it. Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share this message with your friends and family. Your engagement amplifies our voice and shows the world that we are united in our pursuit of peace and security. Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.